oversized rubber band? Meet a 65-year-old man who said yes. Do you believe, as I did, that women are the only ones to battle breast cancer? You may be in for a surprise. And you'll discover what Native elders prize the most to pass on to the next generation. But first, let's pay a visit to the sunny South, where a flock of ad veterans is creating quite a flap. Los Angeles, California, the city of a... When we think of breast cancer, we think of it almost exclusively as a woman's disease. I've just discovered this isn't the case. Although it accounts for only 1% of all breast cancers, male breast cancer is very real.
I would think most family doctors would not see a case in their lifetime. So it's something that, again, the public, the man who has a new lump in the breast or somewhere else in the body, a new lump that comes on, should be gone to the doctor. They should ask the question, could this be cancer?
People would say to me, well, what kind of cancer did you have? I had some problem on my chest. And that's all I would say. And it took me about 18 months before I would say to people, even close to me, other than maybe the wife and that I'd had breast cancer.
If you find a very small cancer, then the prognosis is excellent. If the cancer is larger, spread to the lymph glands at the time of diagnosis, then maybe 50-50. And if there's spread elsewhere in the body, clearly the prognosis is not good.
Well, it was sort of like a pimple at that stage. And I thought it would go away, but it didn't go away like pimples go away. By the time that I had the operation, the tumor was getting to be like the size of one of your major fingernails, you know, and turning in and pulling the nipple with it, you know. And then, of course, there was some pain involved with that. Even though, it's a family history thing, this breast cancer in the male side of the family, I really didn't put the credence to it that it deserved. Unfortunately for my father, he was one of the old school, didn't want to go to doctors, and he waited too long. And by the time it got to him for surgery and so on, it had gotten into the lung and, of course, went throughout other areas of the body as well.
Our tissues tend to get older. So as we get older, we get more prostate cancer, colon cancer, and we get more breast cancer in men. That issue around the mortality, that's probably the most important initial thing. And I think they deal with that much the same as a woman would do, or if they had a cancer some other part of the body. In terms of the breast site particularly, we haven't as society tied up the sexual and other social things in the male breast as we have in the female breast.
Well, I think with most men, and myself included, it doesn't really relate that well. Breast cancer mortality, that's not what happens to men, you know. But of course, I've learned that's quite untrue. We don't have the same problem the ladies do. We don't have reconstructive surgery. We don't have to have all of the prosthetics and so on that the ladies do. So maybe that's one time where we got a little advantage there. But that's about it. That's about it, though. It's just as deadly, if you can use the term, for men as for women, and maybe more so because they're reluctant to move on it.
How common is it? Nationally in Canada, it would be somewhere between 100 and 150 cases in Canada per year. Not very common.
There's no better effective tool for medicine and for the individual than early detection and doing something about it. Even though my GP had told me that in his 20-some-odd years of being in medical practice, I was his first case for male breast cancer, but it almost a snap of a finger, and he looked at it, there was absolutely no doubt. I'm sure he had many female patients with similar tumors. Maybe that sounds strange. The man should check his chest and under his arms and his armpits for where the lymph nodes are. Famous place for tumors. I was fortunate. Mine was on the surface initially, and so I was aware. But it could well have been, underneath there, and I'm experiencing some pain and tending to say, oh, well, I pulled a muscle or something like that. I think guys tend to do that.
Breast cancer in men, so interestingly enough, behaves very much the same as it would in a woman of the same age. The whole range of surgery, radiation, chemotherapy, hormones could all be involved in the treatment of a man with breast cancer, similarly to a woman with breast cancer.
For most guys, breast cancer, men, what are you talking about, never heard of it, probably, most fellows, And, or if they did, they maybe didn't want to discuss that either. Didn't want to think that could happen to them, I suppose. And you got to kind of put your ego aside, for sure. Your ego or your life, that's what we're coming down to.
As we get older, we may have some physical limitations that prevent us from doing things we enjoy, but it doesn't have to be that way. I've got some things to show you to make life a little easier. If you like to play cards, this is a card holder, and it'll hold those cards for you. There's even cards with big numbers.